Hi, Mitch.
Hi,
Uh,
how are you, Dr. M?
I'm fine, and I'm calling you by the name that you are famous called Mitch, but you have the your entire name as Michelle, right? How do you
That's
pronounce
right,
it?
yeah. So, Stephen Mitchell,
Stephen
which
Mitchell,
in the
yeah.
UK, my mother would certainly call me Stephen, but in a business sense, certainly become this alter ego of Mitch, building the sort of tech startup for the manufacturing industry that we're doing today.
Oh, that's excellent. Invariably, having worked with certain British companies, they normally cut short your name and call you by the initials. So that
Yeah,
set apart and talking to you brings around a lot of nostalgic memory to me of my
yes.
stay in UK.
Yeah, it's very easy to develop a nickname. Fortunately, Mitch is on the kind side. Some of them aren't so kind. And I've had a few of them. Yeah, I'm quite a short guy, so I've been called as Titch um, sometimes. But I seem to have lost that one along the way.
Now, I'm one of the kind sorts, so let me permit me to introduce you to my podcast. So here we go. That's a standard work that we do. That I invite my guests and introduce them. So here we go. Mitch, you're on Dr. M's podcast.
Nice to meet you this morning.
Welcome to Dr. M's Podcast, a podcast with a mission to connect continuous improvement professionals across the world.
Well, that is me, and I love to see this over and over again, probably. So,
Welcome to Dr. M's Podcast.
so there you are. What drove me when we got connected to each other was I want to know more about what actually stimulated you and activated you to start a startup, for example, because it's something very innovative, very enterprising. So I just wanted to know you better and wanted to know that what inspired you to start up a tech with SQCDP. We all know
Terrific.
what
Yeah.
the abbreviation is, but I take it on. Mitch, you are in Northeast tech community and a visionary founder of SQCDP.
Yeah.
Safety, quality, cost, delivery, productivity, correct?
That's correct. It's people. So yes. So
Oh, are
very
you?
much.
That's fine. That's fine. That's all. So the P stands for people, right? Or
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, no, great. So you are focused on digitalization and optimizing factory operations. So let's hear more from you on that front. And before I give you the screen,
Yeah. Terrific. Well, it's
so this is what I would like you to talk to us. What inspired me to build my tech startup acquiring manufacturing data with SQCDP
terrific.
app. So I'm handing it over to you and take it forward from there.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's really nice to meet you. It's really nice to be in front of your audience. And I think this is something which is an opportunity for me to share this very story so that others can understand why we're doing this crazy journey. Um, the main reason you're probably after is because I saw there was a problem. Um, and that problem emerged in the factory floor in the environment where I was working day to day as the sort of maintenance engineering manager. I've had 30 years of manufacturing experience through project roles, senior leadership roles, all the way starting back as an apprentice back in the day. So all of that time has been spent solving problems. And something occurred to me whilst I was in this senior leadership role, that our daily reviews with a number of visual management boards around us at 9 a.m. every day, with this entire system that had been paper derived. So the worksheets from the different production cells all being compiled and managed into this visual management, all this energy so that we could have an effective review every 24 hours. And the process wasn't doing its job. It wasn't allowing us to have that effective review and set the actions for the day to fix the problems of yesterday and resolve the problems that were in front of us. And that was because of a number of reasons. Then some of those reasons were about human efficiency. All of this paperwork, collecting it all in from 15 manufacturing cells, and then determining from all that reading what was the right thing to mark on a board. Were we red yesterday on safety, or were we green? Did we deliver to our targets yesterday? Looking through 3 shifts worth of data and then doing another update. People weren't able to satisfy that process because it took so long to interpret the data. The problem became my problem as the maintenance manager, and a lot of your audience might resonate with this, is you're very capable, you have a very capable team. So wherever there was a gap in this process, people would say, we're not sure why we didn't make our target yesterday. It could be a machine issue. Mitch, can you and your team take a look? We don't know why we had that downtime yesterday. Could you and your team take a look? And all of those known things that people should have known were already committed in this paperwork. So when I discovered going to the workplace, finding out what was the problem, there was a quality problem for 2 hours. So we created scrap for 2 hours. All right, well, why is that hitting the maintenance engineering manager? Why isn't the quality manager getting that news? And it's simply being because he hasn't seen that information. It hasn't reached him. And what happened day to day was that was a reoccurrence, and it was a trend, and it was a theme. And I was taking 85% of the actions from the morning meetings. So my clipboard was getting longer and longer. Well, colleagues and buddies in the factory would say, "See, Mitch, kind of you've got a day, but I'll do this." And I just thought to myself, with my experience of working in factories for so long, does this feel right? Does it feel like it's a Mitch, it's an engineer, and it's a maintenance problem? Because when we arrived in my team, you know what engineers are like. They will tell you when they get there and they say it was a logistics issue, the materials weren't delivered for 3 hours. There was nothing to fix there. I've wasted my time moving from this job to that job to try and solve a problem, and it's not my problem. My team were very clear at telling me when that was the case. And so when I understood all that, I looked and went, this system doesn't work. It's a good effort. It's trying to get the data from the operators on the front line, and they are filling in every bit of paperwork. They're fulfilling that stuff, but it's not reaching the decision makers and the guys that need to make a decision day to day to win the next day. What do we do to solve that quality problem? Wasn't then becoming a quality manager issue to resolve, problem solve, get the root cause, and then come back being accountable to the team, say that won't happen again. I was absolutely accountable for maintenance, machinery issue, downtime was in abundance. That was my go-to. If there are these problems, we fix them. Our team, we're accountable. What I was able to see was the system isn't driving the right work to the right team. And the thing that hurt me more than being very, very busy was that it meant that the factory that I was in wasn't being its most productive. We had a very slow cadence of improvement. It would take 3 or 4 days of, yeah, somebody saying, we had that quality problem for the last 3 days. So we've had 9 shifts where we've created scrap at 20%. And it'd only be 3 days later when the manufacturing engineer turns up to say, I had to change the tips on a tool, or I had to remedy some settings. That meant that all that waste was productive time being lost. And it meant that we were producing bad work and accepting that standard. And that was what compelled me to say, I know it's a problem. These guys over here are trying to tell everybody in the business what the right things are to do, but these guys aren't getting the message. I need to create something that allows these guys to say at one time, and guys respond, are attentive, and then resolve the problems of those frontline workers. And that's what then took me to say, let's go and discover how to write software, let's go and discover how to build up. Let's go and discover how we can get these guys connected to each other and then create a working culture that's based on lean manufacturing and high performance. So that was my very first problem. That's what made me do it. A little bit of pain, and the fact that all of the training through my career with BAE Systems, Coca-Cola, Nestle, a number of blue chips who were aspiring on this lean journey, that was locked inside somewhere, saying this, we're not fulfilling our obligations as employees to this business. We must do better. And it took me to the coffee shops on a morning. On my way to work, I would spend an hour or two before work having a coffee. Cheers. I am a big coffee drinker. I think the world revolves around coffee. Um, and that would then take me through the software, and I would build applications and test them and test them. And eventually I got to the point where I was brave enough to create something and say, I'm prepared to give this to the production manager now and ask if we could utilize this on a trial because I think it's going to address this problem. So it took a number of weeks, a number of months, in fact, to learn how to write code, how to create the solution, but I always had the solution in mind. The solution was that we connect this guy here who's at the front line doing a very difficult job to the middle managers, the engineers, and the process guys. And once they were empowered with that information through a trial, we could see that that was then something that was helping to resolve this data issue and those inefficiencies in the factory through the paperwork. That was something that I knew was going to solve a problem in that factory. And the fact that the production manager and the operations manager were so willing to jump into some testing allowed that to be tested and allowed it to demonstrate that yes, it solves that problem. It's subsequent to that time that I've then gone on and said, or recognized even, there are more people in the world that are just like me. There are more maintenance managers, engineering managers who have lists as long as their arm and they're taking all of the actions. But ultimately, what that implies is that the quality manager isn't being given the right work to do. The production manager isn't being given the right information around machine availability, the cycle time, that the speed and the speed of the machines, or the team keeping up to the pace of the factory. Are we having bottlenecks? Can we see those things? If they aren't being given their job to do from the data system, then what job are they actually doing? So it's given the right people the right work through data, and that's why I now believe that data from the factory floor and from the employees in the factory floor who know this stuff the best, that is so incredibly valuable to a manufacturer to allow them to make decisions. And I suppose the measure of that so far has been that we're averaging a 15% productivity improvement where the application is being used. We're seeing a 5% increase in right first time on quality. And we're also seeing a huge culture leap as suddenly employees across the different roles in an organization are talking with the same language with each other based on the same level of understanding of what the problems are. And they're working with each other to solve those problems. That's almost a holy grail moment of I could only ever aspire to creating an application that allows people to work and behave like that. But it's allowing them to work and behave more towards a smart, high performing team where they trust one another and they trust one another because they're using the same information at the end of the day. And that's what brought us so far to the position where we work with a number of customers now. We've worked in the application to work towards what in a tech startup element is product market fit around how we make that package tailorable by those people in those environments for themselves so that they can configure it, deploy it, and just get going. Just change and just make it easy. So our mission is to make digitization incredibly accessible, and it also means we don't have to be expensive. The smart factory products that are in the marketplace to give people similar data and similar dashboards costs hundreds of thousands of pounds every year, or even do just one part of a factory floor. So that capital that becomes tied up on a huge justification for an operations manager or a factory manager to do no longer exists with our product. People can download the app, we can configure it with them, and then they can get going and improve and take them on their own improvement journey, and we'll be there to support them and add extra value adding features to the product as we develop to understand what they are. So it's an incredibly exciting journey. It's been an incredibly exciting 2 years so far. And there are now a team of us, so long gone are the days when it was just me in a coffee shop. There are now a team of 5. And we're focused on product, we're focused on customer, and ensuring that we are still solving those problems that manufacturing customers have. So we are so far down the road, but there is still a long way to go. But I believe that we can really help manufacturers in the marketplace who can't digitize and are stuck on their paper systems, and those inefficiencies and the frustrations that I know all too well. We can help more and more of those guys. And ultimately, what I want to be able to have a customer say is that all we did was download that SQCDP app, and we got safer, quality improved, and we're working with our people on productivity. That's our mission now.
Mitch, just want to clarify something to understand what I heard you saying is you were working with an organization earlier, right? And then
Yes, yeah,
when you saw these problems that occurs on the Gamba on a workplace with respect to maintenance, you started up your own startup, right? Am I getting you right?
that's right. Yeah,
So you are
that's right.
not with the organization where you were there, where you got your software tested by the production and all the other people, but now you have started your own.
That's right. Yeah,
You are the proprietor or the owner of the startup company, correct? Am I
that's
getting you right?
correct. Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
just out of curiosity, because I mean, it's people like you at who's done the startup in India also. Where a lot of startup. There are various reasons why they do it. One of the things that I wanted to ask you straight off is, what moved you from the organization to set it up venture by yourself? Uh, is it the sorry to use the word, is it the frustration of working for somebody in that organization? And now that you got a solution over there, you wanted to escape from it, the frustration, and you didn't want a boss, or is it a internal intrinsic need to go out and face the rough weather yourself and derive that sort of a pleasure and happiness of you contributing and then seeing that you grow, you and being a technical expert, you grow, and along with you, the people that you get associated with, and also the community at large. I don't know which of it drove you to move
Yeah,
away from this organization and start up your own.
yeah. It's as a matter of fact, it's probably something of an accidental mix of all of those things. I think the initial trigger was following the trials, and we did the successful trials, and it was a big blue chip organization. And it was an organization like many that have a huge hierarchy of IT governance and layers of decision makers. So when we perform the testing, we've demonstrated in this factory environment, it solves the problem at the lowest point. It solves the problem there. We can make the operation more efficient. We can make ourselves better. That was a proof point, but that had to be then discussed up that pyramid in order to roll out and carry on and continue to embrace this new application. And we reached a stakeholder who was unable to sanction us doing that work as operations people. I'm maintenance engineering manager, production manager sponsoring, operations director loves the results he's getting, but they need IT to own the back end. And that process was, well, I suppose the dialogue said from the director, the IT director, was that we love what you've done with the product and how you've problem solved, tested, and demonstrated a fit. But we have to provide IT governance, and our IT governance policies mean that I need somebody to work on it from an existing team. And the guys in those existing teams are already deployed on project after project after project, and we will not be able to work on it fully for 3 years. So the frustration from that wasn't just my frustration then, it was visible in the ops director, it was visible in the production manager, in the team leaders who were becoming more efficient in the factory. It had removed all of this churn of daily work, and the Gembas were easy, and the daily meetings were easy, and the operators had a touch point with an application that meant they didn't have to photocopy sheet after sheet of paper every day. So all of these guys were winning, and suddenly you bring that off the table and say we can't do that for 3 years. There was a frustration. There was an acceptance that, okay, this business can't really deploy, and it actually led to a decision for me to leave that business. Because it just felt like you're going to have a very long clipboard for the next 3 years. You're also going to say, I know that the solution to this, and I know the solution to us getting better, and our improvement journey will speed up. That internal frustration then said, look for something else. And I found something else and made the decision to move. But I was still only building the solution for the team. And when I moved to my new engineering manager role in another manufacturing company, within 2 weeks, I saw the same characteristics in the organization from an operational and excellence, a lean management perspective, a data collection perspective. And I pulled out my metaphorical phone from my pocket and I said, I've got this app. Would you like to take a look at it to see if it solves some of these problems? And to a man, from a production planner to an operator to the quality manager to the engineers, everybody said, yeah, we can use that. That'll be better than paper systems and inefficiency. Can we do it? At that moment, a light bulb went on in my mind that suddenly this wasn't just a one tool that fits one factory. This is something that solves problems for other people in other industries manufacturing different products. And the question arrived is, if we've got this, what are the mechanics of getting this to many people who can utilize it and make their work life better, more efficient, more productive? What meets that end? And I had to go exploring to say, well, how do I create this as a product? How do I make it available? How do I make it? How can I wrap a business around this? What is my next step? And I was fortunate that there was an accelerator program in Newcastle upon Tyne, where I'm based, that was about to start, and I explored whether they could give me some support, help, leadership, direction, and learning on how I could build the product to a point where we could scale it as a bona fide product and put that in industry. And I joined the accelerator. I took the leap in 2022 with a bit of faith on myself, a bit of faith on my bank balance, and faith that the accelerator would help me to learn the things that I needed to learn around product market fit, around customer testing and validation to bring the product to market. And that allowed me to have the jump, leave the safe day job, and go all in on the business, start the business, build the product, build the features, test the features, and then continue to roll it out with customers who were getting value from that product. And that's what took me to that journey that sort of arrives with me today in front of you with customer traction, users who use the product, and proof points where you can see visibly the change of metrics and the change of culture in the environments where it's being used. But it was a huge leap of faith, huge and enormous. In fact, it was the most probably difficult decision I've made in my life, because you have to be accountable. It is all on you. It is all on. We are taking the family, we're taking friends down this journey, and it's risky. And a startup, I've not run a startup before. What is a startup? What is product market fit? What is founder fit? How do I demonstrate these things? How do I find customers? All of those unknowns, I had to use the accelerator program to turn into knowns. And I'm now more established with things. I'm now more skilled and proficient at understanding a customer profile. Who can use our product? Who can't use our product? Who absolutely requires it to digitize their process? Who maybe needs it to support a blind spot in their organization? They are things that I've only learned in that 2 years by working with the accelerator programs and the team around me, and by being resourceful and pulling the learning in, so that my journey has been to be Mitch, CEO of SQCDP, and bring this product alive to make it accessible to people who can really benefit from it.
Which, just out of sheer curiosity, I'm not getting into the technical part of it. That's not why. What excited me to talk to you is you could have stayed in the organization for 3 years. I mean, and you could have put in enough of post on LinkedIn how toxic the organization is, how toxic the leadership is. You could have done that and spent 3 years. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, and I use the word spent the 3 years. I mean, and you could have cribbed. What is it in you that permitted you to take this leap of faith? One thing that I heard you saying, and I'm a strong believer of trust. The trust is, to me, is the trust that you have within yourself, and that is the competency that you have within yourself that gives you the strength, and then the credibility you have with the clients of you being able to deliver. And that's the sort of trust that we are talking about. So, what is it inside you that made you leave that organization? Yes, you have a product, but is it the title that you're becoming a CEO that attracted you? Is it the money that helped you? And do you ever feel that it was quite risky? And because you were probably, I do not know what was your source of funding, but that becomes actually to many of the startups, they have amazing conceptual clarity. They have done whatever trials they're supposed to do. I don't know this concept very well. They do some alpha testing, the beta testing of what have you. But what stops them is the initial investment. And probably you were blessed that you had your savings. But then did that part affect you? Or it is that inner urge that you wanted to prove to yourself? I don't know whom you wanted to prove to in the world.
Yeah,
What is it that drove you out of that organization and do a startup with all the risks involved?
yeah. I think it was answering that very first question of the have you got confidence on yourself? Because that would have been the moment to say, don't do this. And I had to answer that really internally in my own mind. So in terms of asking my wife and saying, this is what I'm planning to do. This is how I see the world. This is how I see myself. What do you think? I think the majority of people who want to become founders would consider that as a question asked. But the challenge there is that I think you know what the answer will be, is that it is risky, and a wife, a spouse, a partner is always likely to suggest leaning on the less risky side. Just go to the day job. Just go to just go to work. look after the two children. We're okay with what we have, and make it very practical and almost wash any aspirations away. And so I answered that question for myself. I didn't throw it out to parents, um, friends. It was me in the mirror, and having that deep reflection of, do you believe you can do this? And it took me several days, I think, to when I had the offer of a small amount of grant funding, and it was Christmas time in 2022, which meant that I was at home and on some vacation. I had some time to consider that and then make a decision. And it was a stark look in the mirror at yourself. And I think the thing which then convinced me was that if you can't answer this for yourself positively, then you will never do it. But the flip side of that was the experience of doing those first trials. And I had 100% clarity of the metrics that came out from people using the application. And probably the most important one was seeing how it felt for people using the application rather than their old systems. I'd seen that in their eyes, the benefits, the value, the ease, the simplicity, the accountability, and then those subsequent improvements through some simple steps. And it became apparent in that self conversation that this we're doing this not for myself, not to seek wealth or fame or a CEO title. I see a number of people calling themselves CEOs as a startup, and I've only started to do that in this last 12 months, certainly. As an initial state, it was founder, because I think you have to earn CEO, and I'm still trying to live up to a CEO title. So in essence, it was never about title. It was always about what we can achieve for these guys that are working incredibly hard, and I can see the benefits they get from something that I've created. So that bit gave a sense of purpose. So I think there were two things in the decision: the sense of purpose, and the you must have faith in yourself and trust that you can do it because you know this the most. And then looking in the mirror and saying, do I know this the most? Have I got experience of these trials and the testing and what I've seen? It was a yes. And that became the okay, that's my must. That's why I must do it now, because it's not an application or a solution that existed elsewhere from my searches. But it solves the problem, and it solves the problem for the people that need to be able to be productive and be on a digitization journey and on a culture journey that allows them to be their best self at work and enjoy work and be productive at work. So they were the things that led to that decision. So it was not about future wealth or an exit in 5 years or 10 years, an IPO. Can we build a unicorn company? And of course, that's fantastic. And, it would be amazing to be somewhere like some of those unicorns or very, very successful businesses that you hear about. And you hear about the journey. It's always been about, well, I'm close to the problem. I know the problem. I can speak to these guys about the problem and build it into the solution. Now let's see if we can put it in plenty of people's hands and demonstrate that it solves those problems. And if it allows us to earn a living doing that, it'll be fun, challenging, certainly risky, definitely risky. There are risks all over the place as a founder. So that founder life, that founder job isn't for everybody. Go into it with your eyes open. People looking at the vodcast. If you're considering being a founder, you're going to have to be a special kind of resourceful, resilient, tough, and you're going to have to learn about yourself the most. So you've got to be prepared to do that. And I think in all of those things, there was some acceptance that, okay, I've got to be my best self. I've got to learn to be a new version of me. running a company, hiring people, being accountable for performance, being accountable for their training, their learning, their journeys, customers, the build, the product, the legals, um, all brand new. Once I'd accepted that that was going to be in the future and was going to be a must that I had to do, it was quite then simple to take the first steps onto the accelerator and just open my mind up to a learning journey, apply yourself very well, and be very transparent and authentic. Don't try and be a CEO who talks in a certain way and wears power suits. I'm Mitch. I'm the kind of guy that wears a jumper and it's got a collar on it, no shirt, but it's got a jumper on the outside. This is me. This is my version of me. Will it change into the future? I'm absolutely sure. But will it always be linked back to what I am now? Yes, because this is the method of jumping milestone to milestone and solving the different problems for other people, and that's where the joy comes.
Mitch, actually, you stole away a question from me. Now that I'm quite clear that you're not doing it for increasing your valuation and selling it to an IPO, etc., etc. So that's not the, I mean, because that's probably the trend that I see across being a unicorn and selling your company after 5 years, 6 years, and what have you. But then coming to the human side of it, and getting into one of the things that I liked is the encouragement that you have given to people that. That if you can't bear the heat, get out of the kitchen. But then when you get out of the kitchen, see that you have something in your hand which is built out of your competency, and you can take that sort of a risk. Now, I just wanted to ask you, and this is left to you to answer yes or no. Give me three dampeners, as you call, that when you suggested that it did occur to you that you wanted to start up because you have a product ready, tested, etc. What are the three dampeners which would dampen you? You don't have to say who said that, but dampens your enthusiasm, your motivation. And which are the three things which you, apart from yourself, which you were very, very uh, consistently telling me, were there certain external support that you got, encouragement that, and what were they? So give me the enablers that enabled you to do this, apart from which is very clear your self-belief, your confidence, etc. Apart from that,
Yeah.
second
So
part of it is what are the roadblocks that you saw? Because that's what we are interested in.
yes, yeah. So yeah, first part, I think three enablers. The I always understood that I was never going to be able to do this whole thing on a mission on my own. There were always going to be people brought to it, and I think the very first one of those would be the accelerator program. So it would be the enabler being, are you able to access an accelerator program where people will talk with experience and knowledge about the journey that you're about to go on and give you everything, every insight that you could possibly ask if you ask the right questions.
Just one
Uh,
minute. Many of us will not know what an accelerator program is. So can you divert?
yeah, for sure. So an accelerator program for me, and you know, I've subsequently been through three accelerator programs in total, is essentially where you have maybe it's a small team of two or three mentors who have been through a startup journey themselves and then arrived at an exit and may have done it a second time and may have then done it a third time. So they have learned an incredible amount of information within that. And they're potentially just sitting, waiting to do their next thing. The accelerators that I joined had some outstanding coaches and mentors in there who were open, good communicators, and were willing to share all of the signs for the the pitfalls that new founders could make so that they could try and learn from them and avoid them, and also give direction on what good practice is. What should we do? What should we do? What mustn't we do? What advice can they provide? And the accelerator program sets up a number of sessions which might be around exploring what is product market fit, how to test with customers, um, how to set pricing. You know, all of those things that founders will ultimately wrestle with and say, oh, that is a question that I have to answer. So whether that's in face-to-face workshops or training or Zoom calls and online, an accelerator program would include a body of these sessions with these people who can talk with real wisdom about what the new founders on that program are about to go through, are going through, or have just gone through, so that they can learn from them and be, again, the best founders they can be, to give their business the best chance of reducing risks and increasing the opportunity that they can show to potential investors, or you know, what growth path are they on. Everybody needs to understand it, and you need people that can be quite brutal with you and honest, and can mom test, you know. So if I asked my mother and said, Mom, this great idea, what do you think? She would say, brilliant, brilliant. She'd say, Stephen, brilliant. You should do it. You should absolutely. And she would just be encouraging. She's the wrong person to ask. The accelerator would be full, or make available entrepreneurs in residence, mentors, coaches, who you can ask the right question and they will give you some matter of fact responses, so that you can go through that program with your eyes open, knowing that you arrive somewhere different at the end. I've seen some people go through the program and arrive at the end saying, I don't have product market fit. I can't make this product work. I can't sell it this way. That's fantastic. It meant they've saved a lot of money and a lot of time learning that. And the accelerator has accelerated their knowledge and their journey towards that, so that they can pivot and do something else. But they can also then apply those skills in that way. So I would very much advocate, if you could find mentors or anything that's an accelerator program, get an application in, talk to those guys, see where they can take you, because they'll take you somewhere you didn't know that you had to get to. So that would be my kind of number one. I think the second is probably friends and family, in terms of being that support, that network when you're going through that tough stuff, when you are trying new things and aren't even so confident in certain ideas. Maybe it's pricing, maybe it's customer conversations and sales, and that's certainly never been in my career in the past. When they can give you a safe place to come back to in an evening to talk things through, have a little bit of life as usual, a supportive family and network of friends is incredibly important to facilitate your journey and your ability to continue to get up the next day and go again and go again. It comes back to that kind of foundation, that base that you can get to day to day. So that would likely be my number two. And I think number three is probably more difficult. I think career programs, certainly friends and family. I think number three becomes the network that you develop as a founder. And again, the advice I would provide is build the network. There will be people who you meet that you might not need right now, but in 9 months, they may be the marketing expert you need when you're starting to talk about what your brand is. Or they may be somebody that can do some web design that you just can't do, and they'll be willing to help because you've networked in and they like you and they like the mission that you're on. Certainly, in this 2 years with SQCDP, I've always tried to embrace the network and recognize that everybody that I'm meeting has value. Whether I can give value in the other direction, of course, is fantastic. If you can give some advice or some support to other people who are going through things, that's fantastic to give back as well. But my number three would be the network that you can put in place and recognize that it might not be today, but it will certainly be tomorrow. The power of that network at the right time will take you places that you didn't believe you could get to. Um,
Mitch,
and
let me ask you a final question, which is in our domain area of continuous improvement. What does lean mean to you?
So lean for me is about taking waste away. And I think the first part of that is understanding waste. And again, in that sense of like motor waste and certainly I can talk about UK manufacturing and the environments I've been in as a worker and the environments that I've seen and witnessed in this new entrepreneurial venture. There are so many people that don't understand lean as a principle and are maybe followed towards something that says we get rid of people. It's about taking the people cost out rather than it taking the cost of waste away. So I think understanding lean as a measure of that waste and the ability to categorize what those wastes are, what the size of them is through quantifying it and measuring it in the right way allows you to take against those wastes so that you have an efficient, lean process that performs value add, value add, value add with the minimum amount of waste. So that's what it means to me.
How often in your organization, your interaction in UK, have they compared lean and Toyota production system?
Um, Very rarely, actually. I think there are so many versions that I've come across of people talking about lean not as the Toyota production system. I sort of go to sort of the book in the office of Toyota Qatar and kind of all of the how to use data and storyboarding and so on and problem solving and use of A3s. I can go to that as a resource, but I see so many that don't have that as a resource or a backdrop. They just talk about lean as take people out of the organization, take some of that cost out of the organization, not recognizing that that cost as they consider it is a process waste, is a process cost. So I think the link back to a Toyota production system is something we need to, given how well it works, given how well it can be deployed, and given how much actually sector knowledge there is in consultancy and in the ecosystem, then more and more people need to learn more and understand more about the Toyota production system and its version of lean manufacturing so that they have a strong reference when they're making their own lean decisions.
Fair enough. Let me ask you, since you're a maintenance guy, we have a total productive maintenance. Do you practice that in UK?
Yeah. So a lot of environments, certainly in a maintenance setting, that was always the ambition. It was about people performing maintenance with the right level of skill in the right role at the right time.
Yeah. Again, sorry for this. Do you follow the same module what JIPM follows for total productive maintenance?
Yes, yeah,
You
yeah.
do.
That would be everything. That's sort of again as we visit a client, we have to look at their level of maturity and where are they presently to not just sort of whop a whole system in, um, but it's towards an end system, and again an end system that has processes that are related to best practice, but has to be evolved through the working culture over weeks, months, and years is something that people need to go through a digitization journey from my perspective is collect that shop floor data and understand current state, but then your future state and what processes it includes and work towards that through your storyboarding, through some kata learning, through your Gemba walks, through that continual feedback loop. So whether it's total productive maintenance, whether it's towards a Six Sigma and a kind of quality management role, set of processes, the journey is something that can be mapped out, but has to be something that's pragmatic based on where people are starting.
Fair enough. All the best to you and your startup. It is really encouraging to see that the risk that you have taken, but you have quite looks pretty happy. I mean, I'm sure you don't feel tired at the end of the day. You feel more energetic working for yourself rather than sitting and cribbing in the office and the shop floor. How bad the world is, how bad the bosses are, how bad the organization is.
Oh, yes. Yes, I see so many people that sort of become, I suppose they just become a bit negative at that they can't change the environment or the workplace or the boss, and they live in hope that somewhere else that is changed for them. In my role with the things I'm doing now, I feel very empowered. I feel very much that it is my role to support my team, to support those client teams to be their best, most productive selves at work using the tools that are relevant to them at the time. But they all come back to a starting point of having the data and having the understanding so that they can make more effective actions, and then follow those through to take them on that improvement journey, through some tactics and strategy that is linked to Toyota Production System, TPM, leadership and best practice. 5 dysfunctions of a team jumps out again and again and again. And I think, we talked about it before the call, but having teams that trust one another is so incredibly important on a culture journey and on a leadership and a site manufacturing journey. So I talk to lots of people about that. And I think what we're seeing is we're just seeing that link between early data, early understanding accelerates trust and therefore accelerates team cadence on change. So they're able to change and swing between those tactical changes, environment to environment, storyboard. This is where we're now going to be. We're going to be there within a year. Actually, we're there within 6 months. It's embedded and people are delivering. That's what gives me the most satisfaction, is that we can see people on the various parts of their journey and knowing that they're on that journey and that they're going to get there.
Thanks a lot, Mitch, and I appreciate that you took the time off and you were stuck in the traffic, but you did make it, and very happy that I interacted with you. And actually, I feel encouraged and inspired by people like you who do what they want to do in the right direction, and you don't look tired at all. So
Yes, thank you very
great.
much. Yeah, yes, but the legs are doing this under the desk, and we are, we're paddling away. But certainly, it's been great to talk to you today, talk to your audience. I'm happy for people to get in touch as well through the SQCDP.co.uk website. People will inevitably find me if they search SQCDP in LinkedIn, and of course, I'm happy for you to kind of share certain contact details and emails and so on, because it's about solving problems for other people, and that's what keeps me empowered and energized. So if we're doing more of that and having a bigger impact in a bigger way, then so be it. There are so many people that can benefit from what we're doing. That's why I'm here. That's why it's so exciting to talk to you today.
Great. So, whoever's viewing this and are encouraged by what Mitch said, he will become your counselor. You can accept him as an accelerator and talk to him. Enjoy yourself, and Happy New Year to you, Mitch, and your family, and all the best for your journey.
Thank you very much. All the very best, and it's been a delight talking to you today. Thanks very much.
See you, sir.